Welcome to the Man Room.
Welcome to the Man Room.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Man Room. Thank you for joining me tonight. Very excited for our guest in the Man Room, and just very excited to be doing a podcast in general. So thanks so much for joining us. Every person that clicks like, subscribe, shares with your friends, or does anything like that helps this podcast out. So don't ever quit doing it. My guest today, I got to be honest with you, I am over the moon right now. I'm sweating, actually, because I'm so excited to have him on. Craig Gass, comedian. You might know him from 100 different places. Family Guy, American Dad, Howard Stern, King of Queens, and the first comedian to open for Metallica. But right now, he's a guest on the Man Room. Craig, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to join you, man. I remember when I first met you with the Donkey Show years ago in Eugene, and just tripping the fuck out on, like, how is a show like this happening in a town like Eugene? Like, it's such a small market, and then it was like a big market feel of a show. You know, it wasn't radio. Like, I've been doing radio as long as I've been doing comedy, for over 25 years, and in small markets, people are very boxed in. And they don't really get to express their personality. And if they do, it's like a minute or 2 minutes before a song plays, you know? You can always, like, in a small market, you'll hear, the question is always like, how many songs do you have to play an hour? And it's like, oh, I got to play 8, I got to play 10, you know? And that really shows how much they're trying to limit you in how many songs they want you to play. And that's on top of commercials and everything. But the Donkey Show was like free form talk, and it was fucking like people's feelings were getting hurt, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here, man? We're in this small town where you could potentially hurt everybody's feelings in this town. This is amazing. It was really incredible.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I have been scolded before for talking too much about the Donkey Show on this podcast, but it's a very significant part of my life, and for many reasons, but it's the reason I even have the connections to do such a thing and can even get in touch with a guy like you to come on and join me here. And we had so much fun with you, dude. You were in there. You were one of those comedians that came into the show and was like, look, I'll stay until the end of the show if you want me to. And that doesn't happen. A lot of times when guys are on the road, they would want to do radio, but they're not super into it in our experience. Of course, being an afternoon show, we were a little bit better geared for that because we weren't asking people to come in at 6 a.m. Yep. But still, to have somebody be willing to play the game like that, and your experience on the Howard Stern show too was probably one of those, because Tanner, the guy that was the host of the show, massive Howard Stern fan, really looked up to the guy as an inspiration. And I think you could tell Tanner has a way of asking you a question at a time that is just, it'll slap you right across the face. And like you say, sometimes feelings get hurt, but God damn, it was fun, man. It was just like hanging out with your buddies, having a conversation, and, you know, getting to do prank calls and shit like that back in the day was also a lot of fun. So
is Tanner the one with the super deep voice?
No, that's Drew.
Drew? All right. Drew had the voice that started at the bottom of his balls that I was just, where'd this guy come from? Like, you just don't expect a Morgan Freeman voice to come out of a body like that. And but yeah, Drew, the whole thing, wasn't there also, I'm trying to remember, I could swear, wasn't there like some kind of connection to High Pitch Eric? Wasn't there like a fight or something that happened with High Pitch on that show?
So High Pitch was coming on our show and talking a lot about the Howard Stern show. He would just call us, and he joked a little bit at first. We didn't necessarily believe that it was him, but Tanner got to the bottom of it and realized it was actually High Pitch Eric. And then the producer called. You're going to have to remind me of his name. Gary called. Thank you. And had Tanner on the Howard Stern show to talk a little bit about what was going on with Gary. And it was just in a little news segment. He did like a 2-minute phone interview with him. And I guess it kind of resulted in Gary getting put in his place a little bit, because he was overstepping his bounds on our show, talking about the things that were going on Howard's show. And it got Eric got his feelings hurt a little bit by that one, I think, because he was a little surprised. I think he was kind of playing up the celebrity a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was fun, man. That, I mean, to even be mentioned in the same breath on the same page on the same day as the Howard Stern show, even if it is just in a connection with High Pitch Eric, is very flattering to a guy like me. So
Yeah, I mean, listen, Howard can really make you famous. I remember talking to a girl out in Miami who worked for the Miami Dolphins. Her name was Fudge Brown. That's her name. I remember I was doing something with the Dolphins when I was in Miami, and then Fudge was like my contact person out there. And I remember we got in a discussion about Howard, and she said, "You know what? I've been working in communications for the Miami Dolphins, and I think previously to that, she worked on presidential campaigns, and she said she's never been more famous in her life than the one time that, and I guess it was during the Dan Marino retirement press conference, that the statement came from Fudge Brown, and Howard said, what kind of a guy names himself Fudge Brown?" And it was a girl. And she said, like, her phone has never blown up as much as when it was mentioned on the Howard Stern show. And she said, like she's never received that kind of attention before. And yeah, Howard definitely has that kind of power. And everything that happened to me in my life, almost everything except minus Family Guy, happened because of Howard.
really,
Yeah, I mean, because of Howard, I ended up on Sex and the City. I got a phone call from the Stern, like somebody called the Stern show. I had just been on the air talking about how much pain I was in getting over a relationship. And I got a call from the casting director of Sex and the City saying, "Hey, we're listening to you on the air this morning, and we think that you would play a really good insecure guy on Sex and the City." And I was like, "Okay," And then
what a phone call to get. How's that for your self-esteem? Like, hey, yeah, this is a good look for you.
well, there was a flip side to it, which was, and by the way, I don't know if you're comfortable with this, but your character is, you end up dating one of the girls on the show, and every time you get together with her, you love to perform on her, and every time you perform on her, she has such a huge reaction that she explodes all over your face, and you're such a sensitive guy that you just want to hold her and kiss her afterwards. Which freaks her out because your face is always going to be covered in cum. Do you have any questions? And I was like, yeah, fucking what time? Like, you want to rehearse? Like, and I went over, and yeah, so I got the gig. And similar stuff with King of Queens. My character on King of Queens was written by a fan of the Howard Stern show. Las Vegas on NBC that I did with James Caan and Alec Baldwin. That was also a fan of the Howard Stern show. So like almost everything I've done on TV has been the result of stuff that I've done in Howard. And then 6 months ago, after not being on Howard for 15 years, I've started coming back to the Howard Stern show. So
That's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear that. Are you doing impressions? What are you getting into on the Howard Stern show? Just being a former, constantly appearing guest, or is he having you in for special bits?
it started with Eddie Van Halen's passing. I lived at Eddie Van Halen's house for a period of time back in 2004. And when I was living at Eddie Van Halen's house, I put Eddie in touch with Howard. Eddie wanted to get in touch with Howard. And so they started a friendship because of that. And I sent Howard a note when the news broke. And like at 2:00 in the morning that night, I got a text from Gary saying, "Hey, Howard wants you to come on." And then we ended up talking for a while. He said, "This is really crazy, but when I heard that Eddie Van Halen had passed away, I thought about you. I thought of you were the first person I thought of, and how you lived at his house and what that experience was like." And we ended up talking for like a half hour, and it felt so good for all of us to be talking again. And they said, "Hey, if you ever want to come back on and do something, let us know." And I was like, and I heard from all the fans. I heard from, like Richard and Benji and everybody on the show was like, "Fuck, that was great." And then like a few months later, I'm watching an award show. I think it was like Golden Globes or something, where everything was done on Zoom, and then they went to like show the nominees for this category, and Al Pacino was sleeping on his Zoom camera. He passed out, and so I wrote a whole script of Al Pacino defending himself for falling asleep on TV. And I sent it to Howard in the middle of the night. Like I sent it to him at like 12 or 1. And then again at 2 a.m., I get a text from Gary saying, "Hey, are you up? Are you up? Can you call?" And he said, Howard wants to start the show with you today. And I was like, "Oh, right on. Let's do it." So jumped right on it. And then it was like, "Man, you should do more stuff. You should do more stuff." And I'm like, I would love to do more stuff. And then I started hearing from their writers, and they're like, "Hey, give us a list of any impression that you can do." And I was like, I mean, here's the ones I can think of, but I mean, I literally can do anything. So just, if you have something in mind, like, okay, we'll get back to you. But I just wrote a script that I want to do on Monday, which is, and I think I talked about it on stage when I saw it in Eugene. I got asked by, what's his name? I always forget his name. He's like one of the most brilliant writers ever, who does Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, Robert Smigel.
Yeah.
Robert Smigel had somebody get in touch with me and say, "Hey, you do impressions, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do whatever you want." And they said, "Do you know who Mike Lindell is?" And I was like, "The My Pillow guy?" And they go, "Yeah." I was like, "Of course." He actually sounds like a guy who used to be on the Stern Show all the time, named Crazy Cabby. Mike Lindell's almost the same guy. From My Pillow, I'm a recovering crackhead, and but I'm clean and sober now. Please listen to what I have to say. Please, it's very important. I'll suck your dick. I'm sorry, I'm a recovering crackhead. I shouldn't say that. But anyways, My Pillow, very important. Listen, I'll eat your asshole. Okay? Please, just listen to what I have to say. Like just the idea of just a recovering crackhead, like slipping all the time. So I wrote this whole thing out, and then Howard's on vacation right now, so I'm hoping we can knock it out sometime next week. But to answer your question in short form, I gave you a long-winded answer. It's to start doing celebrity voices on the show again, but it started with a reconnecting when Eddie passed away. So.
Sure. Well, I know that's a friend of yours, and I apologize for that loss. A huge loss felt by, just worldwide when Eddie Van Halen passed away, and you have such an interesting experience with him that you told on stage a few different stories about living with him, and what a cool part of your life. I know it was probably hard going into it because you weren't necessarily on great times when it happened. I think you said you were recovering from a breakup, right, or something like that.
Dude, so I got to back up. This is how the whole thing goes down. It starts at a concert in like 2002, I believe. Yeah, it was like I was at a Scorpions Dokken concert at the Universal Amphitheater, and there's this guy who works in the music business who hates that this happened because he knows it started with him, and it really bums him out that this happened because of how it ended. But he's doing me a solid we run into each other backstage at this concert at the Universal Amphitheater, and he's introducing me to people just like, "Hey man, this is Craig. He's a stand-up comedian." And it's all like rock stars. And I'm such a nerd about music that I actually recognize names of people who aren't rock stars because I'm always reading the liner notes on all albums and stuff. And I'm like, "You're the guy that was mentioned on the third Dio album with the plug-in," okay, weirdo. Like I know everybody's name. So when he says, "Hey, this is so-and-so," I'm like, "Oh, fuck yeah. Like, and then, and at one point he looks across this like space backstage. It's like a big open patio outside behind the stage door. And he goes, "Oh shit. Okay. All right, listen, I'm going to introduce you to this guy. This guy lives with one of the biggest rock stars on the planet, but don't tell him I told you that. Come on." And he walks me over and he goes, "Maddie, hey man, I don't know if you're a Howard Stern fan or if you watch this TV show or that TV show. This is a comedian friend of mine. This is Craig Gass." And the guy turns around and goes, "Dude, I am your biggest fan." I go, "Oh, shut up, man. Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, man." He's like, telling him about all these shows he'd seen me do before. He saw me. He saw my headlining show at the Roxy. He said he had waited in line for a couple hours for the release of tickets that were going to happen to my show. He said he went to the House of Blues to watch me open for Robert Schimmel and Richard Jeni, and I was like, no way. And so we start talking, and we exchanged phone numbers, and I said, do you want to go bowling? And we made a plan to go bowling a week later. And on the night that we're going to go bowling, I called him up and said, hey man, they have a league night tonight and it ends at 9:00. So are you cool for 9 p.m.? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Hey, quick question. Is it cool if I bring my friend Ed with me? Because I've been telling him about you and he's a big fan of yours. And I said, yeah, man, that's fine. And he goes, okay, because he's got a kid. His kid's 12. And I go, dude, it's bowling. Who gives a shit? So I can bring whoever you want, man. And we get to the bowling alley and he shows up with fucking Eddie Van Halen and his kid. And come to find out that this relationship is Maddie is Eddie Van Halen's assistant. Maddie lives on the property in a guest house, and Maddie runs the 5150 Studios, which is also on the property. It's like up a hill. And Maddie is such a Howard Stern fan that he gets up every morning at like 5:30 in the morning so that he can go in the studio and just sit and work while he listens to Howard Stern for 5 straight hours. He just listens to the whole show.
Wow.
When I started popping up on the show, Maddie starts coming down to Ed and saying, dude, there's this guy. There's a new guy on the show. He does a fucking Paul Stanley impression. It's fucking crazy. And then a week later, oh my God, that same guy does a Lars Ulrich impression. And then a week later, oh my God, the same guy does a crazy Sam Kinison impression. And it goes on and on and on. And then at the bowling alley, Eddie Van Halen is telling me my whole life story back to me going, it's fucking crazy. Smoking. You're not supposed to smoke in the bowling alley?
Who's going to tell him?
Yeah. I mean, he's sitting there smoking. And I remember there was one weird moment where he brought up a story that I told on the air. Howard always liked to take credit for everybody's success on the show, which was right. It was very rightful.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he started talking about how he gave me everything I ever had in life. And it was true. And I kind of reiterated what Howard was saying and said, oh, dude, I've been broke my whole life. And in fact, all I've ever wanted to own, like my dream was that if I ever had money, all I've ever wanted to own was one of those illegal cable boxes. That's all I've ever wanted, was one of those illegal cable boxes that unscrambles all the channels. And I can finally afford one now. I bought a box. I bought one of those illegal cable boxes. And at the bowling alley, Eddie Van Halen's talking to me and he's smoking, going, dude, I heard you broke your whole life. Is that true? And I said, yeah, that is true. He goes, dude, me too. I grew up in the fucking ghetto. He goes, and I heard that you always wanted a legal cable box. Is that true too? And I said, yeah, that is true. And he goes, it's fucking crazy because he looked both ways and he went, I got a legal cable box too. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah, the thing is, I'm fucking rich, but don't want to pay for cable. And I was like, are you serious? What the fuck? Like, it was this surreal conversation. And a couple funny things happened that night in the bowling alley, but he bounces and then eventually Maddie bounces. But Maddie and I start hanging out. And over the course of the next year and a half, I would come up to the studio part of the property and I would hang out with Maddie. And then Ed would show up and we'd shoot the shit. And then I got in a bad relationship, a really unhealthy relationship that ended with a really unfortunate situation where we were at a party at the NAMM show, the National Association of Music Works. It's like this big event that happens in Anaheim every January. And there's always a big scene going on at the Hilton across the street. So I left for 2 minutes to go pee. And when I came back, she was making out with some dude.
Oh, God.
I was like, fuck. And I didn't know what to do or what to say. So I called Maddie and I just said, hey, man, I go, you're not going to believe what I just saw. And he said, hold on. Ed wants to talk to you. And Ed got on the phone. He said, dude, I told you she's a fucking whore. And I was like, I go, yeah. And he goes, and you're fucking living with her. And I said, she's the only person I know in this town besides you guys. And he said, dude, back up your shit. Move in with me.
Oh my God.
Really? Is that okay? And he said, yeah. He goes, dude, you can sleep in the recording studio. Stay as long as you want. The only thing is, don't tell anybody, but the band's getting back together, you know?
Oh my God. I bet you felt that in your soul.
Yeah, and he added, it's going to be noisy. And I said, so the only thing I have to worry about is the fact that Van Halen is going to be playing in the next room. And he said, so I know you're working on a TV show. Because I was working on that show, Las Vegas. I was getting ready to start working on Las Vegas. And that's how the first few weeks of living there went. I was spending all of my daytime hours, Monday through Friday, on a TV set, telling jokes to James Caan and Alec Baldwin. And then every night I'd come back up to the house, to the recording studio. Ed would be in the next room, knock on the door and say, hey man, I just got home and is it okay if I listen for a little bit before I go to bed? And every night he'd go, dude, I'm fucking lonely. Come on in. And I would listen to Eddie play, and yeah, it was very surreal. The one part that really stands out about, I mean, there's a lot of like interesting things that happened during that time when I was living there, but there's a really funny moment that happens where in March of that year, I took Maddie to go see Metallica. Metallica was doing 2 nights at the Forum, and I met a girl at the show who I really hit it off with. This cute girl who we exchanged phone numbers, and we started texting throughout the concert, and we were getting really flirty. And then she called me around midnight that night and said, hey, I just dropped everybody off. What are you doing? And I said, I just got home. And she goes, where's home? And I said, I'm in the Hollywood Hills. And she goes, oh, do you want me to come over? And I was like, sure. I don't know if that, let me check and see if that's okay. And let me call it. And she goes, oh, you have a girlfriend. And I said, no, I do not have a girlfriend. I'm just in a really unique situation. So let me find out if that's okay. And then I hung up. I found Ed and I said, hey, Ed, I don't know if Maddie told you that I met someone tonight. There's this really cute girl. She wants to come over. Is it okay if I keep her at the studio? Is that okay? And he said, dude, get some pussy. And I was like, all right, cool. So I called her up and I said, hey, you got to meet me at the bottom of the hill. There's this like windy road, Coldwater Canyon. At the bottom of the hill was there's a Ralph's right there at Coldwater and Ventura. And I said, you got to leave your car at the Ralph's and then I'll drive you up. So we meet in the parking lot. She's peppering me with questions like, why do you need permission to have a girl come over? And I was like, I'm in a really unique, I don't know how to say, I live with Eddie Van Halen. Like, I don't know how to say it. So I just take her up the hill and we go in through the back entrance and which is next to the studio. And I just open the door and I let her walk in first. And she goes, wow, is your friend like the biggest Van Halen fan on the planet or what? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And then she starts recognizing there's a plaque right next to the bathroom door that had the cover of all 6 Van Halen albums, I think. But it was all of Van Halen's albums, and it said to commemorate 60 million records sold. No, it was more than 6 because it had Balance on there. To commemorate 60 million records sold worldwide, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, how do you get something like that? And I was like, do you hear the noise in the next room? That's Van Halen. This is Eddie Van Halen's house, and he's just letting me stay here until I get on my feet again. So, and she was like, oh, okay. And then to answer the next question that every guy always asks, the answer is 2 minutes. It took like 2 minutes from that point.
How did it not? How did her head not explode off of her shoulders when you said I'm living with Eddie Van Halen? Like, it seems like she handled that news pretty well, relatively, because you tell me that, and I'm just going to start screaming and fanboying out like I'm at a Beatles concert.
Well, it was just a moment where I had, I hadn't thought of a softer way to say it, so I finally just came right out and just said, "Listen, here's what's going on," and yeah, it kind of ended in a really sad way too. I don't know if you know about it, but I found out a year later that Maddie and my ex were hooking up the whole time.
Oh, dude.
They ended up together for like 5 years. They almost got married. Yeah. It turned into an incredible experience because it's like, wow, man, it was such a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah.
That happened and such a mind fuck. But I mean, I don't wish anybody any harm. I was actually grateful to have that experience. So
sure. And it's, in my experience, and I am married now, so I don't have to worry about this anymore, thank God. But in my experience, is the sooner they rear their ugly head and let you know who they really are, the better. So at that time when you've been sitting there dealing with it for 5 years and you don't know you've been dealing with it, but you feel like everybody around you does, it's just a real lonely, like, ominous feeling.
It's a gift when someone reveals, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." And it's
right.
Like, "Oh, okay, all right." And I know that Eddie. It's weird because I didn't talk to any. I mean, obviously, I wasn't going to talk to my ex or talks to Maddie. But for years, I was like, Ed was always nice to me. I should reach out to Ed. And the last time I talked to him, I called him up. I had heard that he'd gotten sober, and I wanted to say hello, and I said, he picks the phone, "Hello?" And I go, "Hey, Ed, what's going on?" He goes, "Who's this?" And I go, "It's Craig Gass." And he goes, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And he's like super upbeat, and I go, "Nothing, man. What are you doing?" He goes, "Sitting on the toilet, taking a shit." And I was like, "Oh, you want me to call you back?" And he goes, "No, talk to me. What's going on?" And I go, "Oh, man, I don't know. Let me call you later, man. This is weird. Let me call you later, man." And he goes, "No, man." And I go, "Let me just, are you doing all right?" And he goes, "Fucking great." And I was like, "All right, I'll call you later." I just felt weird. Like, I don't want to talk to you while you're taking a shit. So, but he was super upbeat, and he's one of those guys that I feel really uncomfortable talking to anyway. So you throw in that he's taking his shit on top of that, and it's like, I'm not talking to Eddie Van Halen taking a shit. So.
That's awesome, man. Well, you mentioned too that you'd been in Eugene recently, caught one of your shows, had a great time. Are you currently touring around doing stand-up? Or are you just kind of taking weekend trips? What's your schedule looking like?
That's the crazy thing is the Eugene show. I put that together a month ago because I felt like I just got fully vaccinated. So I'm like, man, I feel like it's, I'm vaccinated. It's time to start getting back to life. And so I put together something in Eugene where I had a really great experience the first time I was there when I met you guys. And then I came back one other time 2 years ago, had another great experience. And then all of a sudden, after I started putting those shows together, I got a phone call from Omaha, the Funny Bone in Omaha. "Are you available April 1st to the 3rd? And I was like, "Yeah, I'm available. Fucking, I got nothing going on." "All right, we're going to book you." So we confirmed April 1st to the 3rd. Then I got a text from multiple clubs in New York City saying they're letting us reopen at 50%. "Are you available for the reopening?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then, so I went from from Omaha to New York, and then over to Eugene. And now all of a sudden shows are starting to come in from Salt Lake and Boise and Detroit and St. Louis. I'm going to St. Louis in 2 weeks, and it's all starting to come together. So yeah, shows are starting to happen again, and now it's time to start, at least for comedians, to start resuming life again. I know a lot of musician friends of mine are not able to do exactly the same. Corey Taylor's out there, or he's about to go out there to do like a large club tour. But according to Corey, he believes that he'll be touring arenas with Slipknot, or at least outdoor amphitheaters with Slipknot in September, and he's been told
Wow,
that's going to happen.
Fingers crossed for that, man. I think that, I mean, obviously aside from stand-up comedy, because I am a huge stand-up comedy nerd too, but I mean, you can see behind me right now, there's an electronic drum set. I'm a musician myself, and I am a huge fan of live music. And it has been an absolute bummer that you just can't get to a show. I mean, there's really, unless you catch somebody doing like a jam night at a bar, you almost can't see live music right now unless you watch it on your computer. And I'm so glad to hear that Slipknot's headed back out. I've seen a lot of advertisements on social media for planned events, but we all know what happened in 2020. Like, there was a ton of shit planned. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. You know, they made posters.
Yeah, so. I'm planning on performing in Australia.
Wow.
So that I can catch Guns N' Roses and Kiss out there. You know, like that's how I book all my shows around the world, is around concerts, and here in the United States around the Seahawks and Mariners road schedule.
That's great.
So I don't know that we'll, you know, I mean, I know there are plans for big concerts over the summer, and we should be safer over the summer, but I do see that a lot of big shows are already getting. I just got an offer for a text from Anchorage, Alaska, while we're sitting here.
Nice.
So there you go.
That's awesome. Show up in Anchorage.
So things are slowly starting to come together, but yeah, concerts it could be a while. And I know that Corey on his large club small theater tour that he's doing for the CMFT, like everyone on that tour is signing an agreement to say we're not leaving the hotel. There's 0 guests, and they're trying to contain it as much as possible to keep everybody safe and separated. And I think that's something that Live Nation is concerned about as well. And I think it's coming from the top, from Live Nation, and then how they deal with the crew is, you know, who knows. But
dude, what an absolute opposite mindset to have as a rock star. I mean, that's all rock stars are known for, is just the after parties. I mean, I don't have much of a connection with Slipknot other than a stripper that we used to have in the studio on the radio show fell asleep on their tour bus and they tattooed a dead baby on her back. No, not kidding you, Craig. She would not take her shirt off at the strip club because of it. And she came into the show and told us that story. She's like, yeah, I was kind of like on their tour bus, like, you know, bumming rides to shows with them and everything. And I was also a stripper and I passed out and now I have this dead baby on my back. And I you know, who knows if she's telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but it's a very Slipknot style story, you know?
I'm texting Corey right now to ask him if that's true. Hold on a second.
Thank you. That's going to do great things for my psyche, because she told that story a lot and she was she was pretty pissed off about it. But then I think once she got the attention about it, she thought that it was, you know, it wasn't as bad. But that stripper was around for a while and I never saw her take her shirt off. I saw the tattoo, which it was like a dead baby doll with X. I think X's over its eyes. And once again, maybe it was consensual. She might have said, hey, I want a tattoo, and then passed out. You know, that type of stuff happens on a tour bus, I can imagine. But excited to hear what Corey has to say about that. Because I don't think it was him. I feel like it was people on the bus. You know, I feel like it was probably, I don't know, what do you call them? Roadies, techs, you know?
Maybe.
But you know him better than I do. You married Corey Taylor and his current wife, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Yeah. Quite a bit hung out quite a bit with Slipknot, and apparently passed out on a bus where she was.
It's hard not to laugh at the circumstance, especially if it's true. It's going to be even harder if it's true. But I mean, quite the story. Like I said, she just came in and started telling us about it once, because in that, much like you were saying, it's surprising that radio show was allowed to happen in Eugene. But we had a few strip clubs that like to advertise with us, and they would just fill the studio with strippers that would just do stripper things on the air. I mean, you've done Howard Stern, you know what that's all about, I'm sure. But she was one that, like I said, when everybody else was getting naked, she always had that suspicious shirt on, which seemed like a real hard sell as a stripper, you know?
He just texted, "That's news to me."
Well, maybe we can find her somewhere. If you're listening to this, stripper with the baby on your back, reach out, manroompodcast@gmail.com. Love to talk to you about that.
He said, "That's news to me," and then followed up with, "But I can't say it never happened."
Oh man, give Corey Taylor my best the next time you see him. That guy's doing some amazing things. Huge Slipknot fan here. My wife, absolutely obsessed with Slipknot. It's obviously I used to broadcast on a metal station. Those guys are way up there on my list. I wanted to
text it. It gets better. The tattoo was of a dead baby. Hey, do you mind if we make this a quick little cliffhanger? Because I actually have to grab a charger. My laptop's about to die. So you mind if we make this a cliffhanger? And I'm going to pause my camera for a second.
It's no problem. I have a little break sounder here. I'll play that, and we'll just go ahead and resume whenever you get back. We'll take a break. It's the Man Room Podcast. Thanks for hanging out.
There's no toilet in the man room. So we'll be right back.
That's what you gotta do when you find yourself thrust into the middle of a cockfight.
And we're back. He wrote, "Ha, that never happened." And then he said, "Sorry, I'm driving." And I texted him that I'm going to be reporting these texts to AAA. Right.
Well, thanks for reaching out to see if you could actually get an answer out of him, because as I said, I feel like with bands, once you get that big, like if that stuff happens, it's always got to happen, a half a degree of separation away from the people that really make this thing go, which would be, all 8 or 9 of them in the band there. So, good story one way or the other. We got a lot of mileage out of it on the Donkey Show. I'll tell you that much.
But yeah, you were saying about marrying them. They got married 2 Octobers ago. And I remember the summer before that, I happened to be in the Seattle area when they were performing. Corey was with Slipknot at White River Amphitheater. We hung out on a night off, had an amazing, awesome meal. And hold on, now it's turning into all right, now it's turning into like a harassment case where I'm giving him shit for texting and driving and saying he's saying I'm doing voice to text, and I said tell it to the judge. So they we were at some point, the dates came up. He said, "Hey dude, what are you doing? Are you free October, blah blah blah?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. What's going on?" And he said, "Well, we're gonna get married that weekend. It's gonna be a private ceremony, but then we're gonna have friends. We want to get friends together just to have like a celebration, and we'd love to have you come over." And I was like, "That'd be fucking great. I would love that." And he goes, "All right, I gotta go. I gotta get ready to get on stage." So he takes off, and it's just me and Alicia and some friends. And Alicia goes, "Hey, I need to ask you a question about the wedding." And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And she goes, "All right, if any of what I'm about to tell you makes you uncomfortable, just tell me." And I said, "Okay." And she goes, "So when Corey proposed, we started planning our wedding, and we started talking about how to do it. And he thought it would be funny if we had an Elvis impersonator marry us." And Alicia said, "There's no fucking way I'm letting you marry us with an Elvis impersonator." And but every time he brought it up, he was so happy. He always had like such a big smile on his face when he brought it up. And I was listening to this going, "Please tell me you want to be Elvis. Tell me you want to dress up like Elvis. Tell me you want me to dress up like Elvis. Please tell me you want to dress up like Elvis." And she goes, "Anyways, so I don't know if this makes you feel uncomfortable at all, but and if it does, just don't worry about it. There's nothing you have to commit to. I go, you want me to dress up like Elvis? She goes, yeah. And I go, fuck yeah, I'll dress up like Elvis. And she was like, all right, let's do it. And then, but what's funny is we never communicated what I was going to do. She just said, would you be Elvis? And in my head, I had this horrifying idea of being late stage Elvis. And I didn't tell her. I was like, oh my God, it'd be fucking funny. Like, I got a bunch of pill bottles and I filled them up with mints so I could chug pills while I was like marrying them. I had a bag of Coke that I kept doing and it was sugar. I had a bucket of chicken. I brought a gun. I had a fucking gun with me and I did late stage. And it's crazy because we got everything all set up and then, the party's starting and we sneak the costume and all the props in. And then Alicia says, okay, I'm gathering all the kids together. Are you ready? And I was like, the kids? What the fuck are you bringing kids over for? And she goes, for the thing, and I go, oh my God. I go, Alicia, you do not want any kids to see what the fuck I'm going to do. This is horrifying. I'm going to be, and she goes, really? And I go, yeah, what the fuck are you? And we realized we didn't quite talk to each other about it. So someone had to come up with a game to take all the children off the property and get them to play down the street. And then I came in and did some fucking high five, cocaine induced, pill chugging, fucking gun shooting Elvis shit. And I married them and it was fun. I'm actually editing the video now. And I haven't talked to them about it, but I just, I need their permission before I release it. So
sure.
If you don't see it, then it's because it cannot be released. But I feel like, we all have the same sense of humor and but if it's just a privacy thing, I'll understand. But it was this, there were people there who I really look up to. Scott Ian was there from Anthrax and being able to pull a gun out and say, I don't give a shit what you say, Scott Ian, I am the law, motherfucker. Like, that was like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. But
that's awesome, man. It's so cool that somebody that is such a big fan of music like yourself has not only found a way to be in and meet those people and network with them, but actually perform and share the stage with some of them as well. We mentioned that you opened for Metallica, first comedian ever to open for Metallica. How fucking nuts was that? I can't imagine what that would be like to share the stage with Metallica.
Well, that's the thing that of all the musicians I know, Corey is the one guy that I feel I relate to the most because we're both like music nerds, like music geeks. And there's like some nerdy talk about 80s metal, even about 80s like Beat Street and Breakin' and Breakin' 2, like all that pop culture stuff. I think we're the same age. I might be a little bit older than him, but that's that. I mean, he's just a normal human being. Like he's just I don't know, he's more relatable to me than, I feel like the more I'm talking about it, the more unrelatable it sounds. But anyway, I'm trying to fucking I'm like, I can hear him yelling at me right now for the sake. So but getting to open for Metallica, those guys seem like larger than life people to me for sure. And there were some funny moments that led up to it, but yeah. And because I got to open for Metallica, I've since been able to open for System of a Down. I got offered a tour to open for Alice in Chains, doing stand-up comedy as their opening act. Motley Crue on their farewell tour. In the last couple years, there's a really cool new band called The Struts that I've opened for. And then Corey did a Corey Taylor and Friends thing that we did in the Midwest. I think it was like 4 or 6 shows that we did. And yeah, that was a fun thing. So I developed this thing when I opened for Metallica out of fear, which is the knowledge that nobody gives a shit about me as the opening act, especially as a comedian. Like, why am I doing this? Like you realize, right? Like you want to be cool and be part of this cool group. And then you realize before you walk on stage, like, Jesus, everybody here's on coke. What am I doing here? Like if I'm on coke at a Metallica show, I don't even want to see a comedian. Like, I don't even want to see an opening band. I just want to see Metallica. I just want to get to it, man. I'm fucking jacked up. I'm ready to get this thing started. So I did this thing where I just, and it was out of fear that I walked out on stage and just grabbed a microphone and just said, "Good evening. My name is Craig, and I am Metallica sound man. The band has some very important announcements." And then I just made up a bunch of bullshit that wasn't happening. That was super cool, but was all bullshit. There's actually video of me doing it on an arena stage on the Motley Crue farewell tour. If you Google my name and Motley Crue, you'll see I have a friend of mine with a video camera, with a camera phone right behind me. And I have the microphone to the 10,000 people out front, and I go, "We are recording our first ever live album right here tonight." And I turn around, look at the camera phone, and I go, "They fucking bought it. That's right." Like, you know, I'm lying right to their face. I'm doing a high wire act. I'm just fucking putting my life in my hands, just making up shit. And yeah, that's fun.
I bet, man. I bet. Now, another thing that I know that you've gotten into, and sorry if I nerd out a little bit here, but you've done a lot of things that to me just make me giddy and make me want to talk to you and ask you questions about them. And one of them is your experience with Media Day at the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You've got some videos up that you are basically asking these amazing professional athletes that don't get messed with ever some very funny questions. And you can always tell when it catches them off guard, because they always have that look in their eye, like, what did he just say to me? Yeah. And how on earth did you make that happen? Because I know just getting a media pass to go talk to the Oregon Ducks college football assistant student grad coach is jumping through hoops for a week before they allow you the 5 minutes that you get to talk to them. But you were at the biggest game in the world and got a media pass. How did you do that?
You know, you point out a very true statement. I do stuff with the Seahawks as well. Every year at training camp, I'll go up and I'll do fluff pieces. And I am a Seahawks super fan. And I love assigning magical qualities to my favorite Seattle Seahawks. But there have been times where I've come up and I have specific stuff that would be hilarious with specific people. And I'll go, "Hey, can I get John Ryan, the kicker? And can I get this guy, the lineman? And can I get this guy?" And these are not Russell Wilson. These are not Marshawn Lynch. These are not Richard Sherman guys. These are guys I know as a super fan that I can get something funny out of. And it becomes well, we have to ask so-and-so and then clear it with so-and-so. And then, fuck, if you have 4 or 5 different people saying, "A comedian wants to do this thing." Wait, what is he? He's a comedian? Yeah. And then they tell the next person, "I guess a comedian wants to," wait, is he trying to fuck with us? Like, it loses all of its fucking, there should not be that many people involved. I agree with you 100%. And the Super Bowl is, thankfully, I have a lot of friends in the NFL who are big supporters of mine. And they've granted me access to it. And I also know dude, I was with Artie Lang in New Orleans. I got invited to just attend Media Day, and I witnessed it just as a fan and just walked around. And as I'm walking around, it's like you work in radio, you make all these radio friends from all over the country, and it's specifically sports radio. But as I'm walking around the floor, I'm seeing tons of friends of mine. Some of them are rock guys, like the 49ers were in that Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 47. It was the 49ers and the Ravens. And so I see some buddies of mine from The Bone up in San Francisco, the big rock station in the Bay Area. I see Artie there. And Artie asked a question. I think it was the first time a professional football player came out as being openly gay. And it was historic because it was an active player, or was it a former player? He was I don't know. But Artie asked this guy from the 49ers, what would you say if you found out that a player was gay on your team? Which it's really, you can almost hear in your head how they would react to it. And that's not how the guy reacted to it. The guy goes, well, they better not come out to me. I'll knock them the fuck out. Like yeah. And the crazy thing is, you know, number one, he's saying that as a player who plays professional football in San Francisco. So there was huge blowback on that. And number two, Artie Lang gets banned from all NFL events because of what the player said.
That doesn't make any sense at all. That's a genius question to ask that guy on the spot. You know, that's what you want to hear is, you know, maybe a little more wholesome reaction, but a reaction, you know, I mean, that's
True.
good journalism.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I also understand the mindset of the NFL. The NFL is super conservative. And I'm always having to be careful of, I mean, the shit I do with the Seahawks is a no fail. I'm always trying to think of bulletproof shit that doesn't offend anybody. The last training camp that I went to was just simply asking any Seahawks they would give me. And I talked to like 15 guys on the Seahawks. And I said, listen, man, you're a professional football player. You are intimidating. I'm not. Can you look in the camera and teach me how to look intimidating? Like, teach me a look where, and then I'll try to do what you do, and then you critique me. It was fucking bulletproof. So it was like football players look in the camera, like with all the blood draining on their face, going, and then me going, okay, I'm gonna try that, and then they'll look at me and go, you look like you need to shit, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to look. I'm doing what you said to do, man. Like, you know, and getting some great reactions. Like, all right, can you hire a bodyguard? Like, you know, like, oh yeah. I mean, and that's the same thing I do at the Super Bowl. I just go around and do, like, when the Rams were playing the Patriots, I remember saying, hey, and this is true, after the Super Bowl, it's my birthday 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. And I was asking all the players, like, hey man, it's my birthday in 2 weeks. You're in great shape. I'm not. How do I look like you in 2 weeks? And it's a dumb fucking question. But I remember a guy from the Rams said, pray to Jesus. Like, that was the perfect reaction. And then, by the way, at that Super Bowl, everyone understands, based on how I look, that if I'm telling you, hey man, how do I look like you in 2 weeks? It is a dumb fucking question. And they take it as a dumb question. And they give me silly, dumb answers. Or they're playful with it. But I asked Rob Gronkowski, I said, and it's on YouTube, of that Super Bowl with the Rams and the Patriots. Hey Gronk, how do I look like you in 2 weeks? And he actually looked me up and down. And he was like, oh wow, how long? 2 weeks? Oh wow. Okay, first off, 1,000 burpees a day, like right off the top. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, for real. 1,000 burpees. And I was like, oh my God, he actually thinks that in my mind, I think I can look like him. Like, I couldn't fucking believe it.
Oh,
so
man. You got to love Rob Gronkowski, the NFL's resident frat boy, because that's the answer you'd get at the frat house too. It's like, okay, 1,000 burpees a day. We're going to drink nothing but Tito's and soda, you know, and
yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And as a fan, that is the kind of stuff I want to see. I want to see their personalities. I want to see, I just want to have fun with them, you know? So you have to be really careful. And I have definitely seen, I've seen the Barstool guy getting arrested at that meet. Like, he was banned from the Super Bowl. Somehow he snuck into the media day. So yeah, and I there's like undercover guys walking around. So you know, but my silly questions, like, hey Tom, you're so handsome. Like, it's silly, but it's a tolerable silly. It's a
Sure.
really, there's definitely a line that you have to be very much aware of. And sometimes, I've gotten better over the years. Sometimes I'll notice that some of the players have somebody with them to listen to what I'm asking and to essentially screen me, like what you're describing at Oregon State.
Oregon, don't put Oregon State on me.
I'm
This is
sorry.
this is an Oregon flag behind me. I just have to clear
Oregon.
that up before somebody thinks I like Corvallis.
All right, my apologies. I don't want to get in the middle of a rivalry, and to where there's someone trying to be to play to screen what's coming through, and it just annoys me because nothing I'm going to say is going to be, offensive or controversial in any way, shape, or form. But I have learned over the years to stop saying, hey man, my name's Craig, I'm a stand-up comedian. Because as soon as I say stand-up comedian, 95% of the football players I talk to go, oh shit. And I'm like, no, not at all. I'm not that kind of comedian at all. No, I'm not gonna make fun of you. I want you to make fun of me, which is easy. Look at me. Like, make fun of me. So yeah. So I try to let them know, like, dude, I'm totally on your side. It's just I just want to do something silly and light. So
it's good that you have that mindset too, because I mean, look, you're not going to find a better collection of egos than you find in the NFL, I'm sure. And that goes from top to bottom with those guys, whether or not you're out there playing and scoring every touchdown in the game or whether you never see the field.
100%, dude. There are guys on the field at NFL games who wanted to play professional football. And the one thing they can control is keeping an eye on who's on the field, and they're most tightest security I've ever seen, more than any concerts I've ever been to. I mean, it's insanely tight for sure.
I love security guys that take their job that seriously. I saw one time at a Creed concert, and this will date me a little bit. It was Creed and Seven Dust, believe it or not.
I remember that tour. I saw that tour.
Yeah, I was at the Idaho Center out there, and Nickelback opened for them when they were still on their first album. So, I mean, this was going back a ways. I was in Boise, Idaho, and there was a lady there, and she was standing just inside one of the fence barriers, and she was taking a picture with a camera that still had film, because we used to do that. And I saw this security guard lean over, and actually he floated on the fence because he took his feet off the ground, and he leaned over and he stretched out and he hit her camera out of her hand, and it fell on the ground and it popped open, and he reached through the fence and grabbed that film out of the camera and just walked off. And I was like, that guy should be working for the FBI if he could do that type of shit. He's a field agent. He's not a blue jacket security guard. What the fuck?
Dude, I remember seeing a guy who I ran into years later doing security for it might have been the Rolling Stones or Bon Jovi. I think he worked with Bon Jovi and the Rolling Stones, but I remember getting introduced to him, and he had some kind of common name like Bob Smith. Hey, this is Bob Smith. It was something like that. It was something like, hey, do you know Bob Smith? And I go, Bob Smith, and whatever this guy's name was, and I looked at him and I go, oh my God, I know exactly who you are, dude. In January of 1995, dude, you were working for Metallica. And he goes, yes, I was. And I said, oh my God, dude. I saw the show at America West Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. Jason Newsted is from Phoenix. So this is like his hometown show. And it was one of those Metallica tours, I think it was Reload, where they had a stage that filled up an entire arena floor, so that everyone in the arena had a great seat, because it's basically the size of a basketball court, the stage, and it takes up the entire floor, and there are fans all the way around it. And on this particular tour, the way that tour started was one member at a time just ran out, lights on, one member at a time would run out, do a lap around the stage, place goes nuts, they walk up to the stage, they get handed their instrument, and they just start playing. Then another guy runs around the circumference of the pit, gets on stage, he starts playing, and it turns into a jam. Then it turns into a song. Then all the lights go out, and it was a really cool way to start a show.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, the first guy out was Jason Newsted, because it's his hometown. So the place starts going, and you start to realize, oh shit, that's Jason Newsted. And he's running through the pit, like going, yeah, and everybody's cheering. And I was sitting up in the rafters. I could see this coming from a mile away. There's the yellow shirt standing in the pit, and one of them looked over and went, like, what the fuck? Like, there's some kid with a concert shirt just going, yeah, and everybody's cheering. And the yellow shirt gets in his way, like, oh, you motherfucker. Like, and he goes to grab Jason. Jason's got this guy, Bob, right behind him, his security guard. And Bob, one hand, he just goes doink, and he pulls Jason behind him, and he grabs a security guy by the top of his head and by the bottom of his balls, and lifted him and just went boom, like King Kong. And a giant security guy went, and it just flew, and the place went, like, dude, I still feel it in my balls. Like, it's been 20 years since that happened. I still feel it in my fucking balls. It was one of the most intense things I've ever seen in my life. And when I told him, he goes, yeah, I remember that. Like, yeah, I was like, dude, that is physically one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, dude. That was fucking amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that guy cut out to do so many other things in life, but was blessed with the James Newstead, personal security guy. How great for him. I love it, man. I love it. I don't have too much more for you, Craig. I know that you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I did want to give you a chance to talk a little bit because you are such a big Seattle Seahawks fan. I was the one, and I hate admitting this to you because I don't like to speak up when people ask for crowd participation at comedy shows, but I was your 49er fan at the Eugene show that I was at. That gave you just a very muted boo in the back when you mentioned that you were a big Seattle super fan. Actually, I've got history with the Seahawks myself. It's the first pro game I ever saw was John Elway against the Seattle Seahawks in the Kingdome. Joey Galloway returned to kick for 6 that game. I got Cortez Kennedy's autograph and got to just a really cool experience for me as like a very young kid. It was something that I got to do. So I do, while I know that we're rivals in the football sense and that our teams are in the same division, I have a little bit of a soft spot for the Seattle Seahawks. And I can admit that as a diehard, lifelong 49er fan. They've really embraced you as a super fan, haven't they? You get to do all sorts of cool stuff with them. Have you gotten to raise the 12th man flag yet? Is that like on your bucket list? Is that coming?
No, I did a thing with Mike McCready when Mike raised the 12th man flag on top of the Space Needle.
Okay.
And, Mike brought me along. Mike's the guitarist for Pearl Jam, and Mike brought me along for to do an introduction because it was broadcast live on local television. So I did a quick little, hey man, comedian Craig Gass. Here's the man of the hour, Mr. Mike McCready. And then he raised the 12th man flag. This looks like I don't know what this is, but but I haven't raised the 12th man flag at the games. But it's funny because I look at opportunities that come my way for like auditions and stuff, and I just think, oh man, maybe if I get that, I'll be able to, like, it's funny. Like I did a thing with Saturday Night Live like 2 years ago or 3 years ago where we went back and forth for a couple of weeks while they were looking for new cast members. And I've always wanted to be on Saturday Night Live, but in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, oh my God, if I get on this, dude, I am raising the 12th man flag. Like, forget that you're getting a paycheck and that you're on TV and that people are going to know who you are. It's like, I just want to be able to have enough people know who I am so I could raise the 12th man flag someday. And like, yeah, but I've had some amazing experiences. When I go to games, they give me a job so I can be on the field with the team.
Awesome.
And
so cool.
I'm essentially a gopher. I'm the Seattle Seahawks team photographer's assistant.
Oh, nice.
So I just
got to get in the door, man. It's just like radio. That's what they say. Just get in the door.
Dude, when you can be close enough to the players where you can hear them yelling out the N-word at each other, oh, it is so exciting. And, I don't want to be friends with anybody in the Seahawks. I just want to be close to the action. And there's been times that some Seahawks have been around, and I've been friendly with some Seahawks, over the years. But I'm not. I just want to be close to the action. That's all, man. And so I've been able to experience some pretty cool stuff, and I've been very, very lucky. So, and plus my team won, so it's like, I kind of understand a little bit what my friend Bob is like. I have a buddy, Bob, who's been a season ticket holder with the New England Patriots since the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
And dude, he is one of the most relaxed football fans. It's like a guy who's just gotten laid a lot and doesn't care anymore. It's just like, he's like, man, oh, dude, your team's good for you, man. Like, he's happy for everybody's team because he's just won and won and won. And and he's seen the best football, and he's super laid back about it. And now that the Seahawks have won it all, at least once in my lifetime, and I got to be there to experience it on the field, in the locker room. There's a picture of me holding Lombardi Trophy in the fucking.
My God.
It's like, so like, yeah, man. I mean, it's all there is like bringing people to share it with, like, anyone I can think of that would really enjoy this moment with me. It's like bringing along, sharing the experience with people who would appreciate it. That's
Sure.
where I'm at. So
Sure. That's awesome, man. I was fortunate enough as a San Francisco fan. I'd only ever seen San Francisco play up in Seattle. But I went to high school with a girl who, her husband is on the team's medical staff for San Francisco. And 2 years ago, they invited us down for a game. They got us, we just had to buy tickets. She got us down onto the field. She got us access to hang out on the field during pregame and everything like that. And, I'm sitting there as a male in my mid 30s looking at these guys that are 10 years younger than me with my jaw on the fucking ground. Like, and, Marquise Goodwin comes over and he's notorious for talking to a bunch of little kids and stuff. And if you would have pulled back wide shot, you would have seen a bunch of 9-year-olds and then me, and then a bunch more 9-year-olds next to me, because I was just waiting for him to shake my hand,
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And by the way, I know a few comedian friends who are big Niner fans who have told me that they've been given access to film with the team in the locker room, and that there's people that work with the 49ers organization who are really cool to work with. And but the Seahawks happen to be my team, but there's, being a fan and booking all my shows around the country to watch my team play in other stadiums, it really tears down that us versus them thing when you meet nice people in other cities who are fans of other teams. And, you start to realize everybody feels the same way about their team. It's harder to like think of them as like an enemy that I can hate.
Right.
Like, fuck them. I hate them. And I hope they all die and that their team dies. And that, like, it's like when you actually spend time over there and you start to see how much we all have in common when we have which is why when I talk about the Seahawks on stage, I always have to frame it because most people around the country hate the Seahawks outside of the Pacific Northwest because they've gotten so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have to frame it as, all right, listen, I'm just know that the way my team plays, my team on Sunday, genuinely affects my mood for the next 7 days. And then everyone in the crowd is like, all right, I get that. Like, that's what I feel about my team. And then I can get into how I've embarrassed myself in front of my favorite Seahawks. And people will hear it and go like, you know what? If I met my favorite quarterback, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd probably lose my shit. And like, I try to make it as relatable as humanly possible. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the goal. So.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's relatable to me in that just being a huge fan of football and what you say about affecting your demeanor. I'm a season ticket holder for the Oregon Ducks college football, of course, not quite as much riding on it, not quite as much spent on the ticket, but I've actually had conversations with my own dad where he goes, yeah, I watched the game last night and I know I was supposed to call you today, but I waited for a few days just because I watched the game last night, and it's like, I get, Dad, you grew up with me, how I am, how I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And it's been a real brown sleeve for the last few days. That's after a loss. That's how I always feel.
Dude, I'm always like friends of mine who are fans of certain sports teams. I'll root for them. If I don't have a dog in the race, I'll be like, oh, I want to see my friend be happy. So I'll root for their team. And I'll root them like, oh, dude, fuck yeah. And then when their team loses, I just leave them alone. I don't say anything. I don't call them for a week. I'm just radio silence, dude. I'm like, listen, you come to me when you can, man. I understand what grieving is, and so I just leave it alone, And it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll be watching the game and I don't know anybody who's a fan of either team. This might be a really shitty thing to say, but if I don't have any connection whatsoever to any team in a World Series or a Super Bowl, I might be like, you know what? I like this team and I'm going to root for this team. And then they'll show a fan of that team in the stands that looks so fucking annoying that I'll be like, you know what? I want that person to be unhappy. Fuck him. I want his team. Now I'm rooting for the other team just because I want to see another shot of that guy unhappy because he's annoying. That guy, like, yeah, it's really weird how I'll switch during a game just based on people I see in the stands that I just don't agree with. Like, fuck him. Like, yeah, it's weird. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But
you got to have a dog in the fight, though. I mean, that's especially it's a lot like when people gamble on teams that they don't care about. It's like you're just looking for a reason to watch the game and enjoy it. I get it.
Artie talks about that a lot. Artie talks about, you're a degenerate gambler when you're coked up in a fucking casino at 2:00 in the morning waiting for the lacrosse scores to come in. And it's like, Jesus. Yeah, that's ridiculous. But yeah, that's and it's why playoffs are of anything I'll watch. I'm not a huge hockey fan, I'm not a big basketball fan, but I like the beginning of the playoffs and following teams through the playoffs. But football is my jam, man. Football is absolutely my jam. So
yeah, it's dude, it's the sport of choice here in the man room for sure. While we like a lot of them, football definitely reigns supreme, and I think always will. All right, this is the point of the show where you get to plug everything that you've got going on. I can't promise that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to hear it, but the people that do, I want them to know where they can find you, know where they can get in touch with you, websites, shows coming up, anything like that you want to plug.
Just go to getgas.com, getgas with 2 S's. That has all the social media stuff. If you want to see some really weird pictures, you can see the links to Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, and everything's right there. And I'm showing up somewhere near you eventually. So
awesome. Well, we will go ahead and put a link to your website in the description of this podcast. So if you're listening, go click that right now. Go get in touch with Craig. Dude, one of the most accessible celebrities I've ever been around. And I just love talking to you today. Thank you so much. Like I said, you have no idea how much it means to me that I jumped in your Facebook DMs and was like, hey, bro, want to do a podcast when you were in town for a show? And you actually said yes. That's amazing. Thank you so much for doing the Man Room podcast.
Well, you're one of the few guys that is really, really memorable because I was like, dude, what the fuck? What happened to that show, man? That was crazy. Like, yeah, again, going back to the beginning of this conversation, I remember that as being like, wow, that is something I did not expect to see when I got to Eugene, Oregon, was to see a show like that. That was fucking nuts. So yeah, man, anytime, dude. And I don't know how long it'll be before I come back to Eugene, but I will be back again at some point in the next year or two. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Craig Gass, everybody. That's the Man Room podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. And transmission.